G'day folks, Ben from Snowies here. Today showing you how to set up and pack away the BlackWolf Cicada Hiking Tent.
Hit it.
This tent has a simple but reliable dome design, includes a ground sheet, has 2 different vestibule configurations and represents excellent value for money. Before we dive into this product, there is loads more content like this on our YouTube channel, so make sure you like and subscribe and you'll get notified of all of our latest content. Now let's jump in. This is the BlackWolf Cicada all packed up straight out of the box. This is a new one. BlackWolf claimed this to weigh about 3.1 kilos, but by my measurements, or by my, I just weighed it came in at about 2.5. So we will clarify that, check our website for the latest information, but this measures about 40 centimeters or just over 40 centimeters by about 14 centimeters in diameter here. The bag does have a bit of an expansion to the gusset in there and some straps around the side, so it is a little bit oversized, so easy to put back in. I'm gonna show you how to set this up and pack it away today. I'll start by showing you what comes in the bag. So you got a little compression strap to hold it all together and some instructions here as well. I'm gonna put them aside and just work it out as I go today. Mesh panel here is a little loft to go up in the top of the tent. You do get a ground sheet included with this tent here, so out of that weight, if you wanna do without the ground sheet, you can take the weight of this off. Pegs, lightweight alloy pegs or aluminium pegs, and I believe there are some guy ropes in here as well. Yep, some guy ropes in there too that you can attach afterwards if you want to use them. Poles in here, I believe 3 pole sections. So we've got 2 pole sections. So just a classic dome with 2 alloy poles there. And then you've got the inner tent and the fly sheet. So this is the fly, and this is the inner. So first thing I'm going to do is lay the ground sheet out and then lay the inner on top of that and then peg all 4 corners out. Now I'm going to peg all 4 corners out, but I'm just going to peg the inner tent. So I'm going to put a peg through this tab here, not this one here. These should line up so the poles go through both of those eyelets there, but this is slightly longer than this one here. So I'm just going to peg the upper or the inner tent out. This ground sheet will naturally stay in place with the weight of the tent on top of it anyway. So I'll get all 4 of these corners pegged out, and then we can put the poles in place. So I'll grab our poles now, and the poles are attached to the tent via these eyelets on the corners and also these plastic clips here. Now the poles come all concertinated up like this. Now don't just flick it to put them together. They're an alloy pole, so they're strong, as long as you treat them well. So you've got to make sure these ferrules are inserted all the way. You don't want to be using it with it partially inserted like this. So go through the poles and make sure they're all put together properly, each section, so it's all assembled. And then we're going to, 1 pole at a time. There's only 2 poles set up here, so it's a really simple dome tent structure. This end of the pole, or each end of the pole, has got slightly, well not tapered, but a slightly narrower section to it that fits through these eyelets on each corner. So I'm going to put it through the inner tent, and I'm also going to put it through the ground sheet. Now probably not 100% necessarily go through the ground sheet because the tent will stay in place anyway, but that's just one extra point of securing it without having to actually peg the ground sheet down. I'll put the other pole together and I'll also anchor that on this side here through these tabs, and then I'll go up the other ends and put the poles in or bend them into place. So as we put these in place, just be wary of trying not to get the poles to bend too far in one way. We want to try and keep the bend of the pole fairly consistent throughout the whole length of it. This is easier with 2 people because one person can hold the other pole, but I'm just keeping hold of this one while I bend the other one just to at least keep it in place so it doesn't kind of get too caught up on the other pole. I'll put both of these eyelets in place. So we can see these are quite floppy here at the moment. If you wanted, you could unzip one of these doors and step inside the tent. I'm going to grab the center section here for now and peg this up, or clip this, just a plastic clip over the top of one of the poles. So that now holds that one in place. This is the only loose one now. If I then peg these top 4, so we've got one on this side, and then this one, and this one into place, that then secures the frame. And I want to try and peg it fairly evenly as I go around the tent, so that I don't end up putting too much force on one side of the frame, which will result in the frame bending out on the other side. Have to go a fair way, but if you keep it fairly evenly, it reduces stress on all the joints of the poles. So I now work my way around and peg the other 2, or clip the other 2 clips on each of the poles in place, and that's the inner all set up. So we're now up to attaching the fly. Now the fly sheet attaches via these clips here, side release clips. And if we have a look at the side release clips on the fly, they're going to attach like this. and then we tighten it. Now questions might come up as to whether you can use this as a fly only setup with a fly in the ground sheet. We can see that there's no really way to do this because this clip doesn't exist on the ground sheet and there's no extra peg point on these points here. So you can't set this up as a fly only setup with just the ground sheet and the fly, but it's a full mesh inner, so you're getting all the ventilation you need anyway. So not something you can do, but not necessarily something you need with this tent because you've got that ventilation. Now, in terms of orienting this fly, there are two different doors. One's sort of tapered, goes out to a point, and the other one's slightly wider. So in reality, it doesn't actually matter which way you put the fly on because as long as you keep the BlackWolf logos on each side of the tent lining up with these doors, it's gonna fit. The only consideration you wanna make is whether you want the door that has a single zip down the middle or the door with the double zip, like this one here, on the main side you're going to use. Now I want this larger entrance on this side of the tent. So I've got this down this side and the single zip over the other side. Now to put this on, there are firstly Velcro tabs underneath here. So I'm going to wrap this one around the center portion of the tent here to hold that in place. And then on each leg, there's another Velcro tab that will go about halfway down the leg. So we've got to go around and secure those. Just a little tip for reference, I put this too low. Place it above the second clip up. Otherwise, when you tighten down the clip at the bottom, this tightens down, well, this doesn't go up far enough, sorry. And then we can go around to each corner and clip these side release buckles in. The only other thing we need to do after that is peg out the vestibules. Once we've got the fly clipped in, I actually found I need to adjust this peg a little bit just to make it sit neatly. We can then go around and tighten the poles, the fly at each corner here, just so it's firm up over the top. And that's the tent almost set up. The last things we need to do, aside from the guy ropes, which we'll go through in a second, is 3 pegs, so 2 in this vestibule on this side here, and 1 at the rear. Now that's the tent set up in its basic manner. Now, there are 4 guy ropes, 1 on each corner here, so with 2 at this end, same 2 at the other end. Don't have to use them if the weather's mild, but if the weather is windy or if you're in really soft ground, then use the guy ropes just to make sure you've got that extra stability. If you're not sure if you're leaving your tent unattended, always use the guy ropes because it's going to add stability to the tent. Now, 2 other things for setup are the vents. There's 1 of these on each side. So this is just got a little kickstand in underneath here. If you open that up, that allows high level weather protected ventilation up high in the tent there, so that you can get wind in there or let the hot air out at night so you minimize condensation inside the tent. If you don't want it open, tuck the little kickstand up, close it down, and that's going to protect you. Now you've got about probably 5 to 7 centimeters of space there. The wind has to be really seriously wind-driven rain to get up underneath that and into the vent. So that is a really well weather protected vent. But that is the Cicada from BlackWolf all set up. That was really easy to do by myself. Simple dome design. You can't go wrong with a simple dome tent. Offers really great stability and really easy to pitch. So that was set up really easily by myself. Pack up is just as easy really, all by myself. First thing I'm going to do is go around, take the pegs out and unclip the fly from the inner, undo the Velcro tabs, fold the fly up, and then we can pack the inner away. So don't forget to undo the Velcro tab in the middle here as well. And before we fold it up, just make sure these fly vents are also flat. So fold the little kickstand underneath, fold that one flat, and this one flat. Now, a fly being kind of a 3-dimensional shape can be a little bit awkward to fold up. So I find the best way to try and make it neat and fold up nice and tidily is to kind of half it as best you can. So this is the center point. This is the door that ran down the other side of the tent, and then I'm going to roughly half the door on this side, and I'm going to pull it off, lay it flat, and then fold it up so that I've got a sort of a strip roughly the width of the carry bag. So next step's to unclip the poles. What I'm going to do is go around and clip these bottom 2 off on each side, and then I'm going to come to the middle and just hold the middle here so that the frame stays nice and even. Unclip these 4 in the last one, and then I can remove the poles, collapse them up and put them back in the bag. So now pull the 4 pegs out, 1 from each corner here, and the beauty of having a ground sheet is that if it is muddy under here, you've got the ground sheet here to be able to pack the tent up on top of, and you can pack the ground sheet away separately. Alternatively, if you wanted, you could just fold all this up together, ground sheet and inner at once. Up to you. I'm going to assume the ground's muddy today, fold this up on top and put the ground sheet in separately. So I've just got the fly and the inner and the poles and everything wrapped up here. on top of my ground sheet. So if I did have a really wet space that I was camping in, I've got this dry spot to keep my tent clean. I don't have mud all over this, and I can put this back in the bag reasonably tidily. If the ground's pretty clean, I could pack this up with this, but the benefit of having this separate is this then becomes a lunch mat that I could use for hiking. If I want to stop somewhere and the ground's wet or dirty, I can put this down for a lunch mat. I can also pull it out first thing when I go to set the tent up in the evening to lay this down and then set my tent up afterwards. So I'm packing this separately to this in this instance here, but it does all fit back in the same bag. So I've actually managed to roll this ground sheet up, tuck it in top there and pack it separately. So what that means is tonight when I come to camp, if the ground is wet, I can undo this and the first thing I pull out is the ground sheet and lay that down, and then I can work on top of the ground sheet to keep my tent clean and relatively dry. Completely up to you, but that's how I would prefer to use it. Got a couple of compression straps around the outside here to keep it all secure and in place. Pack it down as much as you can before it goes into your pack, but that is how to set up and pack away the 2-person Cicada hiking tent from BlackWolf. An excellent value, easy to set up, reliable hiking tent for any camping adventure. It's not going to break the bank. Check them out online at snowies.com.au.